Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's Conversations with Kristie. And as usual, I'm super excited about our guest this week, Tony Bednar with Strategic Talent Partners. But if you don't know me, I'm Kristie Clayton. I'm the founder of ConvHERs. HER is an acronym for Helping Executives Rise. And we do that in three ways. We have a peer community for second in command leaders and a peer community for department leaders. And then we do executive coaching for visionaries, business owners, second in command leaders, integrators, and leadership team members. So if you're interested in learning more, we'll have more information available for you at the end of our conversation. But Tony, welcome, friend.
Thanks, Kristie. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm super excited for our conversation today. But Tony, before we get started, I'd love for you just to introduce yourself.
Sure. Tony Bednar. I'm the integrator and president here at Strategic Talent Partners. We're a retained executive search firm and also do some leadership development, leadership solution type work as well. We're a recent merger of two EOS companies. Keystone Search was the company that I came from that's focused on C-level search. And then we merged with a company called Core Talent that did leadership level search, or that just stepped below kind of the C level within companies. So the exciting part about the company and Strategic Talent Partners now is that we've kind of got the full spectrum. We can partner with great companies and help them fill those leadership seats from the C level to the manager level, and then provide some leadership development and solutions regarding workshops and things like that as well. So it's been a lot of fun merging these two companies together.
Oh, I can only imagine. And I had the absolute pleasure of meeting both sides of your team as you all were kind of doing the merger. And what a fun team you have too. Fun people.
They're great. It was one of those things where we were sharing leads back and forth for years and got to a point. I think it was maybe right before COVID, but we moved into the same office together, kind of sharing space. And it just was that natural evolution where the two companies just shared core values, had so many similarities, and it was just made sense to bring them together. So from that standpoint, it's been a really seamless transition and merger. The two owners are both really great people. Mike Fromalt was the CEO and founder of Keystone Search, and Mary Nutting is the CEO and founder of Core Talent, and they get along great. We've got a great team. Everybody's been around a long time, and it's just been a lot of fun.
Oh, I love it. Well, listen, we're probably going to have you back on to talk about the merger and how you made that such a smooth transition. But today I really want to talk about something that I know you and I are both very, very passionate about. And I actually learned this from you because you all created it, but the Integrator Continuum, and the fact that there are different types of integrators or second in command leaders. And I'd love just to kind of dive deep into that, but I'd love to start with Tony, how did this whole concept come together of putting together a continuum and realizing, wow, there are different types of people for different types of organizations?
It really came out of just thousands of conversations with visionaries. And Mike Fromalt, our CEO and founder, was a contributor to the book Rocket Fuel. Right. And so in there, it was like Mike would tell you what page and where he was referenced and things. Right. I can't do that. But anyway, so we've been around kind of the integrator role for a long, long time. And as we, started continuing to have conversations, and people would call up, or visionaries would call up, and business owners and say, hey, you know what? I need an integrator. And trying to help them understand that what their business need is different if you're a startup or a $3 million business versus a $10 million business versus a $100 million business. But it was just this blanket integrator title that was put on this role. And it was expected that if you were an integrator, you could fill any of those seats in any of those businesses. Right. And so the continuum was a way for us to really help educate visionaries and business owners on better understanding what their business need was. And so that's kind of what the origination was, so that we could understand what that profile was that, that person that would, we were trying to find to bring into their business. But over time, we figured out that this is super valuable for integrators or second in commands too, because they can kind of self-identify or plot where they feel they're out in this continuum and have a very open and honest conversation with their visionary or with their business owner that's trying to recruit them into their organization in terms of, are their skill sets and experiences aligned with what the business truly needs, right? And that's been the magic of this, is it's just created such great awareness and allowing not only integrators but visionaries to go into these relationships with their eyes wide open, setting proper expectations. Here's what I can expect of my integrator coming into my business, and we know that there might be some development opportunities or some things that that I need to retain as a visionary for a period of time, but you can build that plan together and then execute it, which has created some really great relationships over the years.
Yeah. Well, and, I think that I use the Integrator Continuum a lot in my coaching too, right? Is one of the first steps is identifying what type of integrator you are, because what I personally learned in my own journey is that, I'm more on the strategic side of things, right? Like I thrive. Oh my goodness. It's like, I really consider it like a shot of adrenaline, right? It gets me so excited. And at the end of the day, like I walk out of my office even more energized than when I walked in, if you can imagine that, right? But I took on a role that was an integrator more on the left side of the continuum, right? That people, process, metric management. And what I realized is at the end of the day, could I do the job? Yeah, I can do it. But I was walking out of my office like an energy vampire. I was just dry of all of my energy. And I was just flopping down on the couch, just exhausted from the day. So it really can, like, knowing who you are as a leader really truly can help you find the right destination, because you're right. A lot of times there's just the role that is placed out there is integrator with little direction on what type of integrator somebody needs.
And those, it's the way I like to present it, if you're an integrator trying to find a visionary in a company to work for, or you're a visionary looking for that right integrator, you want to hire somebody that your business need is aligned with their personal passions, just like you described, right? So, if you're, if you gain energy over the course of a day working on more business planning and advisor type activities, but the business need is on the left side of the continuum, they need somebody to really define process and implement process and those types of things, and start to incorporate accountability in the organization. Just that blocking and tackling, building that foundation, those are two very different roles, right? And so from a fit perspective, if you're a visionary looking to fill that seat, you need to bring in somebody where that's their passion. They really love, getting their hands dirty, working in the day-to-day on a consistent basis. And then it's going to evolve over time. So that's the other thing. And this is something I took away from an EOS conference early on. And I think it was Don Tinney that was talking, and he talked about the same page meetings that he would have with Gino. And, they would ask each other every year, like, here's the business, here's the role. This is what the accountability chart has evolved into. Is this still a role that I'm excited about filling? It's a seat that I'm excited about filling. And when the answer gets to be no, then know that, it's okay. There's businesses evolve and they change, and the role changes along with that. So just because you take a role as an integrator within a company doesn't mean you need to stay there for your entire career. Certain people really love working with smaller companies and startups and taking them to 10 million. And once they get to that point where it's at that size, it's not as fun anymore because the role changes and their day-to-day changes, right? So really understanding who you are and what really brings you energy and joy is super important.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And Tony, is that something that you see often though? Like, is it more times that, integrators grow an organization to a certain size and then another integrator comes in, or do you see integrators evolving from, one side of the continuum to the other and just continue growing with the organization?
I see both. I envy the people that know themselves so well and kind of where they fit, where they have the courage to leave an organization and go to a new one and kind of start over. And that's probably more rare. It's like you kind of get into that. There's so much loyalty and there's so much, equity that you build up over time where it's just hard to make that change, right? So I see more often than not, integrators that stay longer than they probably should within organizations for that reason. And it just comes back to just like a roll of balls for a visionary, and they need to bring in people around them to let them focus on what they really enjoy and do well, right? It's the same thing with an integrator, knowing, where you add the most value to an organization and making sure that you're honest with yourself. Is this still the role that I really enjoy and want to stick with, or has it evolved to a place where it's just not as fulfilling as it used to be?
Yeah. Is there any way that a person can start identifying that? Because I think you're right. I think a lot of people wait way too long until they're just miserable, right? So what are some signs that people can pick up on that, wow, like maybe it is time to look for somebody else who can take the company to the next level? Because I do agree with you, by the way, that takes courage to say, I'm not the right person to take the company to the next level.
It really does. And again, it's not that you couldn't do it. It's just, it's not aligned with your personal passions, and it starts to impact your personal life as a result of that. So what are the signs? Your significant other, your spouse, they'll see the signs in you that you don't have the energy you used to, right? You're not, they'll see it in you before anybody else does. But even a simple tool like the Delegate and Elevate tool, right, within EOS, just completing that every year as kind of a standard, just to say, hey, what has my role evolved into, and let me put it, into these 4 quadrants in terms of the tasks and the activities and things. And is it still heavily weighted in it's what I'm great at and it's what I love to do, right? And if not, can be a trigger to an integrator that you need to do a better job delegating and elevating. You need to build a team underneath you, right? Because in this role, you have a lot of control as well. Like, you can create that role that fits, your personal passions and things, especially as the company grows, and you need to build out that accountability chart underneath you as well. So there's some things and some signs where if you're having some challenges, again, sometimes it's good to look in the mirror and say, am I creating these myself? Are some of these challenges that I'm facing a result of me, and my inactivity and me not letting go of certain things or not bringing on additional resources when needed in certain areas and things? And so from that standpoint, you can learn a lot. But ultimately, I think that exercise on an annual basis is a great way to get a line of sight into when some of those changes are needed.
I love that suggestion, because that is so true. If it's not in your above the line, right, then we really should be looking at things different. Tony, I know your story a little bit, but I would love, to hear for you to share your story with everybody else. How did you become an integrator?
It's a familiar story, but I will definitely tell it. So I spent a good chunk of my career in kind of corporate America, very sales-driven entrepreneurial organization, but yet still, we grew to be over $1 billion and multiple divisions, multiple business units. And at the end of my time there, private equity came in and started to sell off different divisions and business units and service offerings and stuff. And so I left as a result of that. And in that process, I started networking in our local market here in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. And one of the first business owners that I met with, I was telling him, just who I am and what I'm about and what my background is. And he's like, have you ever read Traction? And I'm like, never heard of it. He's like, well, you should read it because I think you sound like you might be an integrator, right? So after that conversation, I went and bought Traction and then learned about rocket fuel and read that. And then rocket fuel literally changed my life in terms of just connecting with a book and just a role and that Born to Be Number 2 and those types of things where, I can tie it all the way back to when I was in grade school. And, my teacher asked me if I wanted to run for student council president. And I'm like, sure. And then I had a buddy of mine that wanted to run for president. And I'm like, it's all right. You run for president. I'll run for vice president. I don't need to be president, right? Kind of thing. So I'm like, I have no, I'm not somebody that likes the spotlight and likes to be on stage. And I like to be behind the scenes and I lead by example. I'm not a vocal leader. It's just like, man, we're going to get this done and I'm going to be in the trenches with you kind of person. Right. So that book just spoke to me. And I knew right then and there, like, I either want to work for a company that's running on EOS, or I want to find a company that wants to implement EOS. And from there, I started networking with every EOS implementer in my market and building those relationships, and then quickly got introduced to a company that was looking to implement EOS and took a role as their president and integrator. So that was how I got into it. And then at that company, I joined a peer group. In our market, it's called Allied Executives, similar to a Vistage. And in my peer group was Mike Vermelt. So I met him in that peer group, and we built a relationship over the course of about a year. And one weekend, he sent me an email and he said, hey, kind of got a crazy idea, but I just wanted to see if you had any interest in being my integrator and coming to work for me at Keystone Search. And we had a few conversations and made it work. And I looked at it as, in this role at what was formerly Keystone Search, I get to work with amazing visionary entrepreneur owners across the country, right? And our projects take, 90 to 110 days on average. But just getting to build relationships and help them solve some of their biggest people issues and help them move their business forward is super rewarding. And we like to say great companies deserve great leaders. And so, we hold true to that. Like, and there's so many great companies that, run on EOS, run on Pinnacle, run other operating systems, but they're just great owners that want to do things the right way and create opportunities for their employees. And those are the types of people I like to support and work for.
I love that. And your journey is similar, right? So many of us read the book and just truly identified. And then that's how we found out about it, right? Because there's not a degree in becoming an integrator.
No.
Right. And so many of us accidentally found it, right? Or read the book and found it. So I love that your journey and how you found it. And Mike, I have to say, you are both super lucky to have each other because you're both amazing people. So I'm excited.
Well, thank you. It's been so much fun. And to have somebody that's, that you can connect with, personally and professionally, and have so much in common with, and have, just a shared focus on what you want to build and the person you want to be, and focus on personal and professional development. It's really been a fun ride and continues to be. Like I said, bringing in Mary Nutting and bringing these two companies together. We just had a meeting today. It's an employee engagement committee here at Strategic Talent Partners, and it's about how do we make an impact in our communities? How do we make an impact internally in our organization? How do we support each other personally and professionally? And that's a focused effort. We're focused on that every week, just how do we continue to build this company and build it the right way and build the community inside of it.
Oh, that's amazing. I love what y'all are doing. Tony, I want to talk about the continuum just a little bit more though, because you mentioned, Pinnacle and listen, there are lots of operating systems now, not just EOS, but, Pinnacle and System and Soul and Scaling Up. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on now. Is the Integrator Continuum something that translates over to other operating systems?
100%. So yeah, I mean, it's really the second in command, right? And I haven't figured out a better title to put on it than that. But it really is. And it's that number two, it's that person that's going to run the day to day. It's that person that, partners with the visionary owner, typically entrepreneur, and helps, make their vision and dreams a reality. Right. So that role exists in every company, and you can go back and look at, there's all kinds of references, in Traction. You got Walt Disney and his brother Roy, as one example that I always like to use. And it's like, you think about it, nobody has ever heard of Roy Disney, right? But he was critical in the creation and just the building of that company to allow Walt to just be creative and build what he built over time, right? So, I think it crosses over multiple operating systems and obviously every business out there.
Well, and one that I love to talk about as well is, Bruce Wayne, Batman, and Robin versus Alfred, right? And a lot of, it's funny, when I'm first having the conversation, people almost immediately go to Robin is the second in command. But for me personally, I think Alfred was the second in command there, right? He was the one that was really behind the scenes, quietly running things, didn't want to be the spotlight, whereas Robin was very much so wanting to be right beside him, in the spotlight with him.
Exactly.
Kind of funny there. So I don't want to miss an opportunity for you to kind of explain the continuum as well. We kind of talked about left and right and strategic partner versus people, process, and metric management. Do you want to just explain a little bit more of it in depth a little bit?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the kind of the overarching concept is that the integrator role moves across the continuum, from kind of being more tactical to more strategic, right? And one of the things that I always like to say is that typically, as somebody is further along in their career and they've had the benefit of having more experiences and managing in different businesses and things, they move across the continuum from kind of left to right. You start out as a really strong employee, and then you get an opportunity to manage people, and then you get an opportunity to manage departments, and then it's, you know, cross-functional leadership and those types of things, right? It's just that natural career progression type of thing. So when we look at the continuum, it's acknowledging that kind of that career progression is also aligned with a business evolution as well. And so we've created 5 major categories across the continuum. You know, we start with manage PPM, or managing people and process and metrics. And that's really the LMA of EOS is how I like to describe it. So you're managing the scorecard, you're holding people accountable, you're implementing process and systems and all those things, right? Kind of the table stakes for the role. You need to be able to do that and do that well to sit in this seat. But then from there, you need to be able to manage people is one thing, but to develop people, that's a different skill set. So being able to coach and mentor people, you know, not just within your area of expertise, but making sure that's happening throughout the organization. So that's kind of the second, you know, part of the continuum as we work our way from left to right. And then you've got organizational development. And that is, again, as you work your way in your career, you get additional experiences. So these are people that can see the outside world and understand. So there's different things happening in the economy and the marketplace, and here's how we need to be organized in order to take advantage of those opportunities. So this is what our accountability chart needs to look like. Think about your accountability chart of the future, your accountability chart in order to hit your 3-year picture and those types of things. And they're going to start to build out that accountability chart and hire the right people at the right time, get them trained in, and not negatively impact profitability, but be able to you know, bring in people to support the growth, right? And then start to build that team cohesion, because once you start to add people, then some of those culture issues start to pop up, right? And things like that. So that's another skill set, and somebody that is a really good communicator, can bring people together. Then we've got business planning is that 4th category. And these are going to be people typically that have been a COO before, maybe a president of a smaller company, your strategic cross-functional leaders. They've entered new markets, opened new locations, done due diligence, maybe integrated an acquisition. They've got those types of experiences that, you know, when you're looking at that next stage of growth, a lot of times that's what a visionary is looking for, somebody that can come and help and guide the company through those types of things, right? And then advisor is that 5th category on the continuum on the far right. And that's really that true thought partner. In the book, you know, Rocket Fuel, they talk about the puzzle piece match. That's your puzzle piece match. That's somebody that can stand toe to toe with the visionary, challenge them in a healthy way, kick them in the shins from time to time, and just say, hey, you're not listening. You need to scale back, right? We need to hit the pause button here. Those types of things. And then in the continuum, the other thing that's really important is we've got project management running across the bottom. And it's a super important part of this role. And I would say somebody on the left side of that continuum needs to be able to manage a smaller project. Maybe it's in a functional area, it's within accounting, involves a couple of people, takes a couple of weeks. But then on that right side of the continuum, you know, those integrators need to be able to manage. It's an ERP implementation. It's expensive. It involves every functional area. You know, a lot more painful if it goes wrong, but just a much more complex, right, project. And so it's a really wide span. And when you think about the continuum in a business's needs, the next slide that supports our continuum slide has some simplified accountability chart images on it. And it just shows you that when your accountability chart is not fully built out and you're a smaller company, typically your needs are more aligned with the left side of the continuum, right? And then as your business grows and becomes more complex and you've got multiple layers of management, your functional layers are fully built out, you start to see those communication breakdowns happen, the silos starting to form within your business. That's when you need somebody that's more experienced that can create that clarity and alignment within your organization, right? So these are the tools that we use, again, to educate visionaries, to help them gain perspective, to better understand what is their true business need and what does my integrator look like to come in and partner with me as a unique visionary and then meet my unique business needs as well.
I love it. And Tony, is the Integrator Continuum still on your website where people can access it and see what
it is? You can download our ebook, which goes into those continuum categories in more detail as well. So yeah, strategictalentpartners.com, go to the EOS practice area and you'll be able to find it, or they can always email me directly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And listen, it's something I'm incredibly passionate about. So, any way I can be of help to somebody trying to figure out what type of integrator they are, I would love to help you on that journey. It's an exciting piece of my journey was finally realizing, oh wow, like this is where I'm gaining energy and not an energy vampire suck, right? Where, it's so much better to have an energy boost than an energy suck.
How, look at you've always been somebody that's full of joy, right? And just fun to be around and a positive spirit, but seeing what you're doing now, and how much happiness, that just emits out of you and impacts people surrounding you has been amazing. So again, just having the courage to go through a process to better understand who you are and what you truly love, and then having the courage to go out there and grab it, which you have, has been, it's inspirational. It really is. I'm super proud of what you've accomplished.
Thank you, Tony. That's so kind. I wasn't expecting to hear you say something like that. I'm not going to cry. Thank you. I appreciate that, though. I will be very open and honest that it was not an easy part of my journey. It was very, very difficult. But there is light on the other side. And when you really, truly get to live in your joy and your passion, I mean, I wake up every day so incredibly excited to get into my office and get to work. Mm-hmm. And not everybody can say that, right? I mean, I know so many people that Sunday night, they're like, I got to go to work tomorrow. And I'm like, yay, I get to go to work tomorrow, right? Like, I have joy every day. I love spending time with my family and doing things with my husband, but I love coming to work and getting to do what I do every day too. There is joy on both sides. That's awesome. Yeah. Well, Tony, I absolutely knew this was going to be a fun conversation, and I'm so glad we did this. So thank you so much for joining me today. I want to end our conversation with 3 rapid fire questions for you. And for those of you who may not know me as well, honor, empower, inspire means a lot to me. And honor means, really taking the time to recognize a woman of a past generation, and for the accomplishments or contributions they made to your life. So Tony, who do you want to honor today?
I would honor my mother, who has been a rock for me, that has inspired me, that has, through her love and support, has, helped pave the path of making good decisions and being a good person. The best way I can describe it to people is, everybody's faced with at a crossroads in terms of, okay, I know what the right decision is, but sometimes that's hard, or should I, it's easy to make a wrong decision. And just with her influence, always being my guide to make the right decision has shaped me who I am as a person, and in both my personal and professional life. So she's absolutely that for me.
And what is your mom's name?
Sharon.
Sharon. Oh, that's a beautiful story. I love that. Mm-hmm. And then empower really is, thinking of a woman in today's generation, a woman who is in, business or leadership today that empowers us, or that we hope to empower. So, Tony, who do you want to recognize in this section?
Over the past couple of years, getting to know Mary Nutting, who was the founder and CEO of Core Talent, and just seeing the impact that she's had on other women, on other entrepreneurs, in our community, and actually nationally now, has been pretty amazing and impressive. And just her spirit, her energy, just bring us energy as team members, right? Working with her in this effort to just, help other companies achieve greatness. And so she's someone that I've learned a lot from and continue to learn a lot from.
I love that. She's great. I had an opportunity to spend some time with her at the EOS conference last year, and she was just absolutely amazing. I really enjoyed meeting her. And then what about inspire? So inspire is really thinking about a woman of a future generation that we hope to inspire. Who do you want to inspire, Tony?
That one's easy for me. It'd be my daughter. Her name is Avery. She's a freshman at the University of Wisconsin lacrosse right now. And, she's finding her way. And so when she came down to what does she want to major in, she decided to major in business. But what caught me off guard was she said, Dad, I see what you do every day and the impact that you can have on people and businesses and things. And I want to do what you do. Right. And I'm like,
oh, wow.
You want to cry. I'm like, that was totally unexpected for my 18-year-old daughter to just even think that she understands what I do and notices what I do, right? All those other things. So that was pretty cool. So just helping guide her, it's like, it was a long road to get to where I'm at today. I started as a an accounting degree and a CPA, and, to get to where I had all the business experience to allow me to do what I do today. But it's just nice to be able to, know that I can inspire someone as meaningful and beautiful as my daughter.
Oh, I absolutely love that. That's amazing. And how cool is that when they do reflect back, right? And realize what you do. So cool. Well, again, I knew this was going to be a fun conversation. I really, really enjoyed talking with you about the continuum. I feel like every time we talk about it, there's something more that I learn about it, because there's just so many layers of it, and it's absolutely beautiful. So thank you for, creating this to help originally, business owners and visionaries, but also helping us as second in command leaders really lean in and learn who we are. I know for me, it was a pivotal part of my journey. And so I just want to take a moment to thank you all for creating it and sharing it with the world.
Well, thank you so much for having me and continuing to spread the word. And, we're just here to help, right? That's one of our core values, is help first. And anybody that wants to learn more can reach out to me directly. They can download our ebook on our website, but just happy to be a resource.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Tony. It was so much fun. And we will see you all again next week. You'll have a good one.